Good morning and welcome to another beginning keyboard class. To begin with, we don't know at this point who has a keyboard and who doesn't, but we're at a point in this particular book, which is for adults, that you really need a keyboard at this point if you don't have one. And at the end of the lesson, Kate will give you some information about where you can get an inexpensive keyboard, which at this point basically is all you need. And so, but we're at, I think we finished up at page 45 last time. And I want to review that because what we're going to be doing next is a continuation. And so we're introducing the F major chord, which is F, A, C, or C, F, A. You see, when you're in the C major chord, C, E, G, you can easily go from C, F, A instead of F, A, C, and it makes it easier to make that transition from C to F or down to a G7, which in the Saints Go Marching In, that's what you're dealing with, those three chords. So at the top of the page, I just want to quickly review this particular one, which we went over last time. And so at the top, they give you the chords that you're going to be playing in the piece, and I highly recommend that every time before you play the piece, if you play those chords, you'll find that it makes it much easier. So beginning with the C chord, G7, C, and the new one, the F, and C. And so we've already gone over, the fingering and everything on this, and so I just want to play it one time. And if you look down at the third line, you have that quarter rest there in the first measure there, so just watch out for that. So let's just play it so that you get a feel once again. This is just a review. So then to repeat. Now you can play it slower in the beginning or faster, and so part of the challenge right now, if you don't have a keyboard, is from here on, you really need to be able to practice these various songs because it gets progressively more challenging and more difficult. And so, for example, in this song, as you normally do, you are playing the melody with the right hand and the chords with the left hand. But as we move over to the next page, what you have is, again, when the Saints Go Marching In, but you're playing the melody with the left hand and the chords with the right hand. And so part of the challenge when you're first learning to play this is how fast to play it. And so I suggest that you just play it as slowly as you need to. And it might be advantageous to some of you to just play maybe the chords first until you feel comfortable with that, and then work on the melody by itself. And that's always an excellent option, depending on your skill level, is to play the treble clef or the bass clef by itself until you feel comfortable, and then play the two together, because you know, it's a challenge. So as we look at, again, now we're introducing the F major, which is, in this case, it's F-A-C, but since we're already in the C chord with the right hand now, right? So then it's C, F-A. C, F, C, G7, right? So the fingering for the C chord is F-A-C, 1, 3, 5. And for the F chord, it's C, F, A, but it's also 1, 3, 5, right? So it's 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, C, E, G, C, F, A. So you were doing that basically. See, this is just the opposite of what we played in the page before. So now you're playing the chords with the right hand and the melody with the left hand, which, you know, up until this point, depending on what skill level you are, but this is a beginning class, and so for the people who are really beginners, to all of a sudden be playing the melody with the left hand can be a real challenge, right? So if we look at, let's just count from the beginning of the piece, which it's a 4/4 time, but the piece ends up with a measure with 1/4. Count, and so we start off with a 3 count, which is 1, 2, 3, and then 1 for the melody. Second measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hold that 1 in the third measure, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hold that again in the next measure, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in the second measure it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold again, and then a rest. There's that rest I was talking about, and then 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? It's a dotted half note, so it's 3 beats. And then you hold it for 2 beats, and then 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So, as you can see, it's a little challenging because you're holding it into the next measure, and so if we look at the chords in the treble clef, counting, there's nothing but rests in the first measure, and then a rest in the second measure, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, and then a quarter rest and a half rest, and then the last measure is a rest, and then 2, 3, 4, and then 1, and then, so that's very important, because at this point you can see how important it is to have a keyboard, because it's starting to get a little more challenging with what we're doing, and from here on it's just going to be a little more challenging and a little more challenging. But the wonderful thing is what you're going to be able to play as you progress. And so I will say at this point, hopefully you've all got keyboards. I don't know. I was assuming that some people didn't, and so at this point, I don't know. But if let's say you just got a keyboard recently, and so let me recommend that you go back to the very beginning and play the easiest stuff that we start with until you feel comfortable as you move up to this point, because from here on it's going to be very important for you to be able to practice, because that's what it takes. It's like anything, whether it's a drawing or whether it's a sport that you play, practice. That's how you get better, is practice. And so I've talked about the reading, and what I'd like to do for a moment is just look at the music. What we'll do to begin with is, if you look at the treble clef, basically you're dealing with the chords, right? You're dealing with the C chord for the first few measures, right? C, E, G, 1, 3, 5 in terms of the numbering your fingers, all the way down until the last measure in the second line, which is your G7, and so that's your B, F, G, and so basically you've got one place where you have your F chord, and you've got your G7 a couple of times, and a lot of it is just C chord. But if we look at the bass clef now that we're going to be playing with the left hand, you've got your C. Okay, you're starting with the C, you go to E, you go to F, and then G. So this is the melody now, right? So we're not playing chords. So the first measure is C, E, F, G, and the numbering, they have it for you there, 5, 3, 2, 1. But beyond that, you need to put your fingering in. So going to the third measure, you're holding that G, so that's with your thumb, which is your number 1, right? And then it's back to 5, 3, 2, 1, which is C, E, F, G. And then that G is held in the next measure, and then it's, once again, 5, 3, 2, 1, right? C, E, F, G. And then, so that G is held for 2 counts, and then you go back to E for 2 counts with your third finger, and then C for 2 counts, E for 2 counts, and then D for 4, actually 5 counts, 4 in this measure, 1 in the next, but that's with your number 4 finger, right? Then there's that rest, and that's important for the whole sound of the piece. Then you go from E, which is 3, D, which is 4, and then back to C for a 2 count, C again for a 2 count, E for a 2 count, and then G for a 2 count, G for a 1 count, F with this is your dotted half note, which is the F with your number 2 finger, which is held over for another 2 counts in the next measure, and then E with the third finger, F with the second finger, G with 2 counts with your thumb, number 1 finger, E, 2 counts for your third finger, D, 2 counts with your fourth finger, D again, and then your C, which is for 5 counts. Okay? So basically the counting is one of the things that makes it a little tricky. You're holding from one measure to another. And so anyway, so again, I recommend when you start, you look up above there and you have your chords. So I always, before I play, even something that I've played over and over again, that's where I start. So, and as they often recommend, start off slowly, and then you can pick up the speed as you feel comfortable with the chords. So, C, G7, C, here's the new one, F. So to begin with, start off very slowly. So I'm going to start off and do it very slow to begin with. So. Here's that rest. Then it says repeat, so I'll pick up the pace just a little bit. So basically, there's where we are at this point in time. And what I would like to do at this point is I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to leave the next lesson to the next lesson. And I'm going to hope that everybody is going to be able to get a keyboard by now, because at this point you really need one. There's so much involved from this point on that you need to be able to understand what we've been covering up to this point, and be able to practice, hopefully on a daily basis. And so one of the things that that I do, and I'll close with this, and that is, before you play a piece, if you can read the piece. And so for those that reading is still a challenge, start with your treble clef, and in this case, you're looking at the second measure, it's just C, E, G, and once you know it's C, E, G, well, it's C, E, G, C, E, G, all the way through that line. And so you can just follow the C, E, Gs all the way over until the last measure of the second line, which is B, F, G, B, F, G, B, F, G, into the next line, B, F, G, and then your rests and your C, E, G, C, E, G, until you get to the last line, which is your C, F, A, C, F, A, and then the next measure, C, F, A, and then C, E, G, C, E, G, B, F, G, B, F, G, C, E, G, C, E, G. So you can read the treble clef first, then go down to the bass clef, where you have starting with the first measure, C, E, F, G, G, in the third measure, right? C, E, F, G, G, C, E, F, G, E, C, E, D, D in the next measure, E, D, C, C, E, G, G, F, F, E, F, G, E, D, D, and C. So then, once you feel comfortable with the treble clef and the bass clef, whatever the music that, and I would suggest even music that is a little more complicated that you're not even playing yet, if you practice reading that, it's only will help you. And so then at the next stage, then you do both together. So I'm going to start with the first measure, and we're down in the bass clef, so it's C, E, F, G, and then above C, E, G, C, E, G, C, E, G. Then in the third measure, G, C, E, G, C, E, F, G, C, E, G, C, E, G, C, E, G. So you're just practicing reading, right? So in the next line, G, C, E, G, C, E, F, G, C, E, G, E, C, E, G, C, C, E, G, E, C, E, G, D, B, F, G, B, F, G, B, F, G, D, B, F, G. So we're down in the third line. E, D, C, C, E, G, C, C, E, G, E, C, E, G, G, C, E, G, G, F, C, F, A, C, F, A, F, C, F, A, E, F, G, C, E, G, E, C, E, G, D, B, F, G, D, B, F, G, C, C, E, G, C, E, G, C, C, E, G. So just practice the reading, and especially before you play a piece, and you'll find that learning that piece will be much easier. So with that, I will say thank you, and enjoy playing, and hopefully Kate will have some information for you if you don't have a keyboard. There are inexpensive keyboards out there, enough to get you started anyway, so have fun playing. Thank you.